No, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm not trying to be mean. I just don't understand why all this had to come to this. Because these animals have never hurt anybody.
Well, on March 19th, that wasn't your attitude. It was, give me 30 days, or how many days it was to give you 2 months.
Yes, and I went to Texas,
And
I've been
today,
down
that
there
wasn't
3
an
times,
attitude.
and it's just, it won't work. It puts us in danger and the animals in horrible danger. Would you move somewhere where you had to be locked in your house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year? I don't think so, not willingly.
I didn't make that statement, ma'am, you did.
Yes, I did.
Don't hold me responsible for
No,
statements
I'm
you
not.
made. No, I would not live someplace like that. You're exactly right. I would not do that.
And neither will I. But I don't want to see the animals killed for it. I'm having trouble selling my property. I can't just move on air. Nobody's buying. I had people come out and look at it a couple times, but they couldn't get financing. If they could have got financing, it would have been sold and we'd have been gone. Not to Texas though, but out of this county.
Thank you for answering my question. I'm done.
Jim?
I just have two quick. First of all, I'd like to hear County Council's outline of what appeal process that
Right.
exists. And second of all, the purpose of this agenda item, I believe, was to just get a status report for what, the progress being made for the August 1st deadline for the move. And I think Ms. Valena has clearly stated that it appears to me that the status report is not to move, and she's stated her reasons why. So I would like to see that we continue our discussion in terms of exploring what the alternatives are, because it's apparent that the commitment that was made back in March for this August move is apparently not going to be happening, and so that changes the whole dynamics of
I
why
can
we're
still,
here
but I
today.
don't, I just can't.
But I'd like to hear what council has to say about the appeal process, so that Ms. Valena will clearly know what her options are, and also the board will understand what its options are.
Well, I'm not sure what she's appealing. I don't know what the attorney told me, because we have codes in this county that have been adopted, and ordinances are the same as a statute. And that's what you're in violation of. So I can't speak for what this, I would say go back to that attorney, because I have no idea.
Well, the 2
What he's
codes
talking
that I'm
about.
in violation of, I've appealed one of them with FEMA, which I should have been told I had the right to do that in the beginning. I didn't know. I had no clue. They knew, but they never told me, because I'd have had something to fight back with. And the setback code, you guys, your animal control's in violation of it too, so why is it okay for you, not for me?
Okay, I'm just
The
I'm
woman-
speaking specific to the appeal process.
Okay,
I
the
don't
woman
know
on
what
the
this
south side
attorney.
of me has agreed to sell me her 20 acres, which I can meet the setback with that property.
Okay, but that's different than the question I'm being asked. I'm being asked about the appeal process. You were told by some attorney. I have no idea what he's
What
talking
he
about.
said is there should be some kind of appeal process, ask them what it is, was what he said.
Okay.
If I may, I think the primary question was the number of animals.
Well, that's one violation. I believe that.
I mean, that's the one we,
That's
the
what
setback
the
and
variance
the setback and the FEMA map and so on, I understand those are certainly questions that have to be answered, but our ordinance doesn't allow more than 25.
And that's dogs.
And that's
Dogs.
dogs.
And I'm looking at the
I
Siskiyou
mean-
County, and it pertains to dogs. We're not dealing with dogs here.
Well, some of them are dogs, and yes, there are 2 breeders that I know of in Siskiyou County of wolf hybrids, and they know they're there, and they're covered under the same regulations as dogs.
Can't speak for that other than reading their code.
I understand that, but they've been out to Edie's place, because somebody said they had full-blooded wolves out there. They went out, checked, said no full-blooded wolves, you're fine, and left.
In other words, it seems to me if we were to solve the FEMA issue and the setback issue, we would still have the primary issue outstanding, and that's the one I believe we're attempting to address.
That's correct.
That's correct.
I mean, if the board desires, you can ask Mr. Anderson or Galen to review the history of this case, but it's been reported on several
So
occasions.
it's-
I mean, the bottom line was that, you know, Ms. Valenta was told by staff that she was in violation of the ordinance on number of dogs and the facilities there. She came before you and in a sense, appealed, asking for more time. You agreed to give her more time, and she moved by August 1st. And today is to hear whether or not she's going to meet that deadline. It doesn't sound like she is, so. at this
Well,
point,
if
I
push
think- I
comes
think
to
we have
shove,
go
I
back-
can be out
we
of
have to go
town,
back and
but
explore
I'd
what
rather
our
not.
options are to, enforce the county ordinances. So unless the board, and I'm not hearing anybody say anything, that you're supposed to be gone by August 1st, otherwise the county has to enforce the ordinance.
Let me ask a question. if
Sure,
it's
you
okay,
bet.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Jim.
My understanding of the, I guess, the hierarchy of decision-making and how the appeal process is, obviously staff has the ability, line staff, to interact with anyone on whatever the subject is, and that decision's there. Obviously, if that isn't satisfactory to the person in the community, then they can appeal to the line staff's immediate supervisor. So in this case, if you start with Galen or you start with Peter, then it would be like to their department directors, which would be Maury or maybe Larry or Millar. And then if that doesn't provide any satisfactory results, then the appeal goes beyond that then to the county administrator, who is the person that oversees the departments on behalf of the board. And in the case of the planning issues, obviously the planning commission is a body that has certain powers that they've been delegated to administer the rules or the codes or the sections dealing with land use. And obviously, if the planning commission decision is not one that the person agrees to, then they have the right to appeal that to the board. So ultimately, this board sits at the highest level in terms of the hierarchy of decision-making through the county process. But once you reach a point where if the board does not agree with the person, the only appeal process they have would be, obviously consulting their own attorney, would be to pursue litigation. In other words, you would have to sue the county to go to a court of competent jurisdiction in order to overturn the board's decisions. I mean, in terms of, at this point, the appeal process beyond this level, if I'm correct, would be a legal action. It would be brought against the county, basically, I guess, in order to, like an injunction or something, to preclude the enforcement of that section of the county code as it would relate to her particular circumstance, and then the court can come in and, I guess, take control of the situation and order, yes, you stay, or no, you leave. And is that correct? And of course, obviously, the trial court is the first level there, and then that can go to a court of appeals, and eventually you can go all the way, I guess, to the Supreme Court to determine who's right or who's wrong. So if that's not the way the system is set up, where am I off base?
No, it's true. What we have here is just a little different, is Ms. Valenta wants the ordinance changed. It's not an appeal. You're enforcing an ordinance, which is a law. It's like the speed limit. And you're enforcing a speed limit, and she doesn't like the speed limit, so she wants it changed. She doesn't like the ordinance that
Speed
says...
limit's not a good analogy to use.
Sorry, that was before me, sorry.
And I don't think we want to bring up that.
How many, axles on a truck. So Ms.